Good morning. I've had several people ask me what I intend to do when I'm in office about the mess we have with our police force. First thing I intend to do is educate people on the fact that these are just public servants and they are all replaceable. And the public is the entity that decides who stays and who goes. The public is the entity that decides whether or not there should be a punishment imposed.
Why do I have a feeling you're about to get next level stupid?
When we have cases like when Kevin Johnson was killed, when Eric Peterson was run down, when Callie Smith's 911 call wasn't answered, just because we have other law enforcement entities that may come in and do some silly investigation.
Well, you mean that silly investigation that looks at facts and evidence instead of just going based on what Rhonda Applegate thinks should have happened?
Doesn't mean that we have to accept their investigation because in all honesty, we give these law enforcement officers the option to use lethal force. They have the right to choose if they think that the situation needs, the only result could be killing, lethal force.
How the fuck do you not see that is the very fact that we give them that right, that we give them the option to use lethal force is the exact reason, the precise reason that we can't just punish them if we don't like the way it went?
But it's the job of the people who employ them, such as the citizens of Nevada, when it comes to what happened to Kevin, what happened to Eric, what happened to Callie, and many other people. So regardless of what another law enforcement agency says, we, the community that pays these paychecks and employs these people and enters into the contracts with them, does not have to accept the end result.
Accept is the wrong word completely. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. You can be really, really angry about it. But you do have to accept it. There's nothing else that you can do about it.
Just because DCI or Story County Sheriff's Department or somebody else may say that they were justified in killing someone, or they were justified in pulling the trigger and discharging a firearm in the community, or they were justified in running a person down with our squad car, doesn't mean that the community has to accept it.
Is this bitch fucking crazy? That's exactly what it means. That's what it means. It means that you can't punish somebody without proving that they did something wrong. You can't do it. One person could say that they think it was justified, another person could say that they don't think it was justified. The only fair way to do this is to look at facts and evidence, and you don't have to like the way it turned out. You really, really don't. You have the right to not like the way it turned out. But unfortunately, you can't make your own rules and just punish people because you think that it should have gone differently.
We, as a community, still have the right to impose consequences on the public servants who carried out that task.
Undeniably, unequivocally, totally and completely not true. You can't just punish people because you feel like it, but let's hear how you think you're supposed to go about doing this.
So the way we are to impose those consequences is we are to go to the other public servants, such as our council members, our mayor, our city administrator, our police chief, to make sure those consequences are imposed on any public servant who does things that we do not accept.
Holy fuck. What does that look like to you, Rhonda? What, you walk into the mayor's office, you walk into the town council meeting, you just walk into these offices and say, go fire this guy based on what I feel should have happened?
Again, we have to educate ourselves. I intend to be the public servant to educate us. I intend to be the one. It only takes one, the one public servant who the citizens can trust.
I'd be real interested to see exactly how Rhonda Applegate will educate the public on jack shit, considering she doesn't get the most basic concept of American government. at its most basic core is the three branches of government: the executive branch, the mayor's office; the legislative branch, the town council; and the judicial branch, the law enforcement and the courts. That's as basic as it gets, and you don't get to lord over the other ones. That's the entire premise of the checks and balances system. That looks different on the federal levels versus the local levels, but it still exists. You still can't tell the other branches what to do. You still don't lord over anything. You do not have the authority within the city council to just go over and say, I'm punishing somebody.
Who the citizens can go to so that the citizens can get their wishes carried out.
Boom. You just proved exactly why it's so extremely important to have this separation of powers. And we don't have or want a system whereby members of the public can just get their wishes carried out when it comes to imposing consequences.
If I would have been in office, Officer Johnson would not have been promoted. He would have had consequences for what he did to Kevin. There were other solutions in that case. It was a case of a young officer who was scared and alone. We shouldn't have had him go in there alone either.
I'm going to explain this really slowly. You could not have been able to impose consequences. Certainly, you could not have done so on a criminal level. And when somebody is cleared of wrongdoing, you don't get to just go behind them and ruin a career based on what your read of a situation is. That's what you think happened. You weren't there. You don't get to ruin somebody just because you don't like the way it went. Rhonda, you do not make your own fucking rules. Why do you think you make your own fucking rules?
Same way with Eric Peterson. What happened to Eric? There would have been consequences imposed upon the officer that did that. He would not have just been allowed to resign on his own. Furthermore, there should have been consequences imposed upon our council members, our mayor, our city administrator, and our police chief.
So it's at this point that I'm starting to think maybe you just don't know the meaning of the word consequence. So I'm just going to ask you a direct and easy question. What does a consequence look like to you that you, as a city council member, can impose upon the mayor, the police chief, or any other member of the city council? I can't wait for your answer.
For doing nothing on these issues except for waiting for other law enforcement entities to come in and say, oh, it was justified. Well, I and many other people in this town do not think it was justified.
And once again, thank God for a system of innocent until proven guilty. I can't stress the importance of that enough. That's not our system. We don't want that system. And we won't ever elect anybody who thinks that they could enact that system. That's about as anti-American as it gets. We have rights, and you don't get to just decide who gets punished.
So when I am our new council at large member candidate, I can act on the behalf of the public. I can open the doors up and include the public. There will be drastic changes when I get in. Changes that benefit the public because, again, the public servants work for the public. Despite
all of the terrible leaders, this country has at one point or another elected, I am 100% certain that you will never, ever, ever work for the public. I intend to restore that balance and make sure that all public servants know that there will be consequences imposed upon them if their actions are inappropriate. And I also will make sure that other public servants know fully well that they are all replaceable. Thank you.